Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Today. We've got a special friend here with us today to solve a problem that gosh knows every single one of us has, and that is we have more tasks than we can accomplish, and we're putting more things on our staffs. And we have a solution for you today. I've used this personally. I've used this professionally. It's made my life significantly better. Please welcome my friend from Rocket Station, Greg Brookes. Greg, welcome to Commercial Real Estate Today.
Hey, Wally, thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure. Wish we could do it in person, but hopefully sometime soon.
We will have that opportunity soon, I'm sure. So, Greg, for the uninitiated, the person who has never considered using a VA, have no VA in their experience, what on God's green earth fundamentally is a VA, virtual assistant? What is it?
Yeah, no, for sure. So a virtual assistant, I think the definition is kind of fluid now because over the last 2.5 years, we've all kind of been VAs, right? We all were figuring out work from home and work remote, and we all got introduced to virtual in one way or another. But really for a virtual assistant, it's somebody who works remote. They can be in the US, they can be overseas, they can really be anywhere in the world who handles, various tasks for the person they're working for. Those tasks can range anything from personal tasks, hey, schedule my dry cleaning, schedule my vacation for me, all the way up to kind of where we service, more professionalized tasks, meaning things that are very pertinent to kind of small to mid-sized entrepreneurial businesses, bookkeeping, accounting, sales. So it's got a very broad definition, but the basis of it, someone remote who fulfills a very specific role within either your life or your business.
Greg, when we first got together several years ago with the idea of having virtual assistants in our own companies, one of the things that scared me most was how in the world am I going to describe to someone, especially someone that's not sitting knee to knee with me, what to do? How do you really develop that scope of work? What makes that work?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's every entrepreneurial's person's kind of Achilles heel, right? It's, what to do, you got to get it done. And then eventually we hit the point where we need teammates. We need people to help us. And that transition from do it all entrepreneur to true, what we call kind of true business owner is tough. So kind of what's unique about what we do is we realize that it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Jacksonville, doesn't matter if you're in the Philippines where we've got over 2,000 employees. People are really good. And personally, I've never joined a job where I wanted to go in there and mess everything up from the get-go, right? So what typically is the bottleneck is giving clarity in what do you want this person to do? Why are you hiring them? What purpose are they going to serve for your business or for you personally? And then the hardest part is how are they going to do it? And for most people, it's, hey, let's go train, right? Go sit, like you said, knee to knee or toe to toe or sit on a Zoom call. And we walk them through like we're in third grade again, in a classroom.
That's time-consuming, frustrating, and expensive. And it gets even more frustrating and expensive if you've made the wrong hire. And you don't discover that until you're weeks or months into the training evolution. How do you prevent that?
So we go through a really in-depth deep dive with each of our clients, each of our partners, called process mapping and implementation planning. So really simplest terms, I call it the brain download, right? A lot of us are running successful businesses or we know what we want done. It's a very specific skill set to be able to take what's up here, what's made you a successful entrepreneur, and get it out on paper and organize it in a way where it can be taught. So what we've got is a team of specialists. We call them our process development team, where we work with each of our clients and we say, hey, don't let us bring you someone and you just handle the training. Instead, work with our process development team. Let's fully scope out the work end to end. We develop something called SOPs, standard operating procedures, where every single task, every single role, every single function is clearly documented end to end, so that when we hire that person, yes, there is still a level of one-on-one, but the reference material, the training material is more formalized where you have clarity as to what this person is doing, but more importantly, the person has all the resources they need to learn the job and plug right in immediately.
So do I need to have sufficient clarity as the business owner or the professional who needs the assistance to be able to develop this process map, or does your staff have the skill set to draw that out of me?
Yeah, that is the uniqueness and what I really love about our teams. We literally call it a download because we draw it all out of you, right? It can be overwhelming. It's why some of us just work ourselves into the ground and don't hire, right? Because the thought of hiring and training is anxiety provoking, right? It's like, I don't have time. How am I going to do this? I'll just do it myself, right? How many times do we say that? What our team is great at is we have a process that we've really kind of perfected and coined over the last 8-9 years, where we sit there with you, cross the table, cross the Zoom screen, and pull it out of you, ask you the questions that we need, leveraging our experience within the real estate industry to get everything out of you that we need. And then we do all the building. So kind of in a numbers perspective, 4 or 5 hours of your time turns into 50, 60 hours of my team's time, where you come out of it with this complete training booklet ready to hire and empower someone to actually get the work off of your plate, which is the end goal at the end of the day.
And I can share with you, Greg, from my own perspective, I had 2 or 3 direct reports contribute to the process mapping, meaning your staff interviewed multiple members of my staff. And what that resulted is not only was I unburdened from those things, but my staff was unburdened from doing things for me. And it all consolidated into an individual process that we now have multiple people, from Rocket Station doing for us. But it was a gathering of brains from our organization to coalesce into what started as one position is now multiple positions that we've grown through. What do you say to the person that says, yeah, but Greg, that's all good, and I understand how you guys worked it out, but my market's different, or my market's different? How do you bring comfort and clarity to the individual that feels they're an entrepreneur on an island and nobody can understand me but me?
Definitely. And that's every entrepreneur at one point or another, right? That's the greatness of it. And what I would say, I mean, our business is a testament to it as well. Every business has nuance. Every business is unique, but really what makes most businesses, whether you're in the commercial real estate space, the home services space, whether you're in medical, doesn't matter. I mean, 70%, 80% of what we do every single day revolves around customer service, revolves around business development, sales, and marketing. And it revolves around all the operational stuff, the accounting, the bookkeeping, the vendor processing. So that's why we do that process one-on-one with you, because our team has tons of innate knowledge and templates and processes that we've developed and refined with our clients. But we understand that, yeah, we know 80% of when you come to us and you say, hey, I need help with my marketing department, 80% of what you're doing, whether it's social media marketing, whether it's SEO, whether it's Google, whether it's radio ads, we know the structure of what that funnel looks like. But that 20% that is your business, that's really what we get on those calls for, and where that brain download really comes in, right? And it's a conversation just like this. It's walking through and giving that entrepreneur a platform to really walk us through the nuance. And kind of the funny story coming full circle here. I mean, 9 times out of 10, when the entrepreneur finally gets it out, they're kind of like, oh yeah, I guess it's not that complicated. Cool. Awesome. Let's hire and go. Right. So it's kind of a cool moment at the end of it to realize that.
I'll tell you what we've gained through the process, Greg, is we've got an internal clarity, because the process with Rocket Station to do the process mapping helped us find places where, gosh, that's a silly, inefficient way to do that, or isn't there a better way? So we're significantly more efficient.
Yeah, no, it's the hustle and bustle, right? Especially as you're scaling and growing, moving into new markets. So often you're plugging people in and kind of hiring what we think is the wrong way. There's a need, and you hire the person as the Band-Aid to fix it. And you maybe give them a crash course and you say, all right, go figure it out, right? And then the cool thing and you guys definitely took the right approach, bringing the whole team in for cohesiveness, is you guys get to see, well, why do we do it like that? That might have worked when we were this size, but that is not efficient now. And you really get, from the process mapping, you get this nice visual where it's definitely a 3-step process. The first is getting it out. The second is building it. And the third is then looking at it strategically and saying, hey, is this the most efficient way to operate our business with where we are now or where we're trying to get to? So I love hearing that you guys had that experience, because we get that feedback so often. It's not really intentional. A lot of what we're doing is to set your virtual team member up for success. But so often that's the outcome, where now you as the manager or as the CEO or the owner is now like, oh, wow, this is how we operate. We can automate this. We can change this. We can hire 2 people here, and everybody gets more efficient out of it.
Right. Talk to me about software familiarity. People can easily see that, it's a Microsoft product or Salesforce, any of the big common elements. What do you say, or how do you prepare the entrepreneur as well as the virtual assistant to deal with an industry-specific software or even a company-specific software? How do you train to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So software is everybody's biggest bottleneck, right? We've all been on the sales call with the software guy where the software is going to solve 965 of your 1,000 problems. And then you plug it into your business and you're like, oh, this isn't just a flick a switch and everybody knows what's going on. So we solve the problem in two ways. Number one, the process development team, everything we're going to do is custom around your business. And the great thing that our team has the bandwidth for, and technology is always a big part of that process mapping, because a lot of the actual jobs we're talking about, you're doing it in your QuickBooks, you're doing it in your CRM, you're doing it in your client management platform. So the nice thing here is that we're fortunate. We've worked on a lot of CRMs, regardless of industry, specifically real estate. We've seen the ones that have been tried and tested. We've seen the flash in the pan ones. So we've got a lot of internal kind of best practice training templates that we optimize to fast track that learning. The other thing that's unique in the software world is all these software companies, they want to be software companies. They want to develop. And what that means is most of them have catalogs, hundreds of hours of YouTube video, tutorials, FAQ libraries. The problem for the entrepreneur and the people working in the business is you don't have an extra 100 hours a week to go learn that and watch it and take tests and do it again. So our team does. So what we do to curve that is we spend a lot of time with those software companies. We have a lot of strategic partnerships where we pipe right into their development team so that if there is updates, if there is new functionality, we have a pre-established relationship where those updates are passed to us. We then go to your team members, uptrain them on any new functionality, update your process documents so you have the internal document to reflect how the software works. So it's a bunch of moving parts. The overall thing, though, is software is developed to make our lives easier. It obviously takes time to learn. And what I say is a lot of whether it's a CRM, whether it's an accounting tool, a lot of them on the back end look the same, right? So it's really our team giving your team the time, right? Being able to spend the 20 hours to go through and figure out the functionality, the tools, the processes around it. And then we build the documents, the videos for your team so that we can fast track that training.
Great. When we talk about software, in particular, databases that may have proprietary client relationships, accounting software, how do we deal comfortably, responsibly, and in a secure environment with passwords and accesses for many entrepreneurs to things that they don't share with anyone? So this, especially in smaller businesses, 2, 3, 5 people, very often the owner is the only person who's ever had access to what they are most concerned about. How do you engage with that sharing of trust and that sharing of passwords to assure that the Conway fortune does not get sucked through a digital bubble and I'm left penniless and have to move to your house?
Yeah, exactly. And we all see the flash headlines, right? The Russian crypto, $8 million gone. Like
the risk is very real. And even more real than the risk is the fear. So the fear may be higher than the risk, but we have to admit the risk is also real. How do we manage that, both the fear and the actual risk?
Yeah, definitely. So from the fear perspective, we do a lot in having the established entity that we have both in the Philippines as well as the US. We're compliant in 2 different countries from an IT perspective. So anybody out there looking, to hire a VA, have that question, have that thought process is if you're working with a company, you quiz them on their IT, run them through their policies. Do they have cyber insurance? Like know what you're getting into, because there's a lot of companies out there that don't have that. They're more of a freelancer network where they don't even really screen very effectively. So it's definitely something you need to ask either the person you're working with or the company you're working with. What I would say is when done correctly, and I'd like to think that we are one of the companies that do it correctly, it can be actually more secure than typical in-office employees. And I say that meaning we've been virtual for 9 years. So as the internet's come up, as you've seen all these different IT, compromises and all these different issues, that's something in our industry we've had to adapt with and be on the tip of the spear with. For most entrepreneurs, and my sales team goes through this all the time, anytime the IT questions come up, how we plug our virtual team members into your business is they feel like they're in the office with you. Meaning for those of you who are a little more techie, there's no API integrations. There's no data transfer from you over to us. We set them up into your technology ecosphere like they're an employee, meaning you own the passwords, you own all your software. We're giving them access, setting them up with emails on your servers where you control everything. So that's kind of the most elementary safety protocol that we implement. But what typically comes up is we also then, because we're in your ecosphere, plug into your IT policies. The scary thing for those companies, like you mentioned, the 3, the 5, the 12 people companies, they don't have an IT policy. Their IT policy is, we've got an office and I can see John over there and I can see Wally, and I know they would never steal from me. And that's it, right? So there is the unknown with the virtual where you're not knee to knee, you're not grabbing lunch. But what ends up happening, because everything we do is on the phone or on the computer, is we have a lot more control, whether it's secure password databases where you have to have two double authentication to be able to access or reset, whether it's setting up the administrator statuses in your CRMs or your billing so that the VA only has access to what they need to see. And then all the way through to just the backup software that we run, where we can remote access in, we can wipe hard drives, we can get the VA out should it be an intentional or an unintentional breach of data security. And the scary thing for most entrepreneurs is, I feel like entrepreneurs are very smart now, where they know the IT piece is very prevalent. And when it comes with working with vendors or with working with a VA company, it's a question they're asking. The thing that's really scary, though, is the amount of loss and infiltration that happens just within an office, because the within the walls of your community, within your office, there isn't necessarily the security or the servers or the remote access needed to keep your business as safe as it probably should be.
Well, I can say with comfort and confidence that our security position as a company is stronger for having worked with you over these years, not at greater risk.
Yeah.
Because what you were able to bring to the table to educate us, to teach us, to prepare us of how we work together securely and safely, that trickled through our entire group of companies. We just got better. And it was almost like having an IT/security staff member in making our protocols and our systems and our process and how we engage in passwords and password providers and what do you call those things? The vault. LastPass is what we use.
Yep.
But those things, people have fears on things, yet they've done nothing to protect themselves from the actual risk. A great value we've gotten from our relationship, Greg, or I've gotten from our relationship, is we are significantly more secure than we were before we distributed the workforce. It doesn't make intuitive sense until you break it down and say, all right, what have you actually done to protect your data, to protect your accounting, to protect all the things you're fearful of? And for most of us entrepreneurs, especially in let's say companies under 100 people, we've done so close to nothing that it's effectively nothing. So I thank you for putting us in that position.
Yeah, no, and like I said, for most people, as crazy as it is in a technological world, and I mean, we've been in this now for 25, 30 years, most people's security up until COVID kind of forced them to think about these things was, I have a lock on my office door. And that was the security that they had, right? So we're kind of starting to see the maturity. And like you said, we specialize in kind of the small, mid-sized business space. Most of our clients are usually under 50 employees. And it's the same thing, right? We all sprinted into COVID trying just to figure out, how do I launch a Zoom call? How am I going to connect with my customers when I used to be face-to-face? And now we're starting to see the maturity of these businesses to now realize, okay, this is probably how, in some degree, how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. But now we need to get better on the security standpoint, because when done right, it can be very, very
well. The good news for our companies is our relationship predated COVID. So when the COVID occurred, we had a real leg up. We were ready to go. We expanded, as you know, with the size of our staff relationship with you, and that was real good. So your staff works hard with a scattered entrepreneur like me, or like my staff members aren't scattered, it's only me, to build out this process map so we know, we all look at it and go, that is precisely what we need to be liberated from. That's going to help us grow. It's going to help us economically by saving money in our efficiencies. How do you match the right person to that task, and what role do I, as the business owner or my staff member, if they're working for one of my staff members, what role do they play in the hiring process?
Yeah, we went right from every entrepreneur's favorite topic, training, to their second favorite topic, HR.
There you go.
Things that make entrepreneurs cringe, right? So
if I didn't trust you, you wouldn't be here, man.
Exactly. So that is where, from how we do it, we kind of run two sides of our business. There's the process mapping and delivery that happens on the front end. And then what we do, and what a big part of our team is in the Philippines, is we're an HR staffing provider. And we go through it via a three-pronged approach. There's obviously your typical HR screening, right? So criminal background checks. In a digital world, we check computer hard drives. We check to make sure they have enough RAM, enough internet bandwidth. Our teams are fully work remote, work from home. We have been for 8 years now. So there's all those technical check marks that a person, just to get an interview, has to get through. All of our people have college degrees. Typical avatar is 5 years of working experience. So, there's all of those kind of fitting into this box screening, as well as the HR component of it. What's unique to us is then we kind of do what we call like a pre-training for every single VA. So the real estate industry specifically, as all of us know, is very unique here in the US. So what we hire for is based on talent. We look for world-class talent that have worked at companies like JP Morgan, who has almost 250,000 jobs in the Philippines. Companies like Google, Oracle, that's who our VAs in the Philippines have worked for. So they're very westernized in terms of the work culture. So we recruit off of those skill sets. And then the thing that's unique with us is we then put every single virtual team member through 5.5 weeks of real estate focused training. And that part of it is, number one, unique to us, but number two, it really has two purposes for us. Number one, our end goal is we want our clients to have the best VAs possible. Part of having the best VAs possible is we need to empower that VA to be able to be a leg up when they get in there. So part of it is knowledge-based training for them, so that if we've recruited you out of JP Morgan and you've been a fraud processor for 5 years, your skill sets are probably great on the data management or on the market research piece for a commercial real estate investor. But you need to have that bridge built to take your skill set that you mastered here and be able to transfer it. So part of it is knowledge-based. We do evaluation. We're very big on empowerment and growth, meaning we want to see you ask questions. We want to see you be involved in your training class. We want to see you scoring well. So we kind of take care of that basic knowledge-based training, that otherwise you as the client would have to take on.
Right.
But the second part is the evaluation. So it's the evaluation to be able to say, are they learning? Are they retaining? Are they catching on to what it is? And then what that looks like for you is we are then using all of kind of our data points that we track, all of our, we use personality profiling platform as well to kind of get to know our candidates better. And then we go in and once we get through process development with a client like yourself, we kind of key in on what are the 4 or 5 key pieces of experience or key personality profiles that this person is going to need to be successful. And then we bring you 3 to 4 qualified candidates that we're saying any one of them would be a rock star. Your company has a specific culture. You have a specific way you like to operate. Meet them, interview them, talk to them, and then you actually get to pick the candidate that you move forward with and start working.
That was one of the things I really enjoyed, was essentially what we could think of traditionally as the pre-screening of the candidate. We did not kiss any frogs at Rocket Station. Our actual challenge was, gosh, is it Marianne? Is it Kathy? Is it Susie? Is it Margie? Or men? We have men and women, as you know. It was more about, wow, these are good choices. What feels like the right fit, and we were able to do that internal to the company as a team, where we all could meet together and interact together and make good choice. We've made no bad choices at this point. I will say, and I hope you're comfortable with this, we ended up having a problem with a VA that we did not know we had. Your team discovered, I believe it had to do with billing and what else they were doing with their time. I don't actually even know what the background was, but your team came to our team and said, we feel it's time to replace this individual. Nothing bad happened to us. We were perfectly pleased and happy, but your staff was proactive, I guess I should say, from an HR or a performance sense, and said, we need to make a change. And I really respected that. That gave me a tremendous amount of comfort, that you were watching our back. We had a minor problem, probably related to time tracking. I don't even know what it was. You discovered it. We were totally unaware. We were happy campers. And I mean, we're still happy campers, but I really respect that. And I think people need to know that we're still dealing with humans. They're highly screened and highly trained humans. And sometimes for different reasons in a human's personal life, they may go a little bit off the rails. You have the mindset, most importantly, and the strength of your process to discover it. And that person can have a little time out. You can solve that. And because the process mapping is so strong, we can plug in that next person. The other thing I think it's important for people to understand is if you think you need one person and you get that one person and it's going well enough that all of a sudden you're gaining more business, the processes are already built. The mechanisms are already built, and plugging in person number 2, 3, 5, or 26 is really easy.
Yeah.
Really, the first person was not difficult, but adding people who are performing a similar role was beyond simple. So I have to flatter you on that one.
No, I appreciate it. And that's where building for scale, right? Every entrepreneur has different goals. Some of them are looking to grow the business as much as possible because they're moving towards an exit. Some of them are moving into a new market. So part of that process development is kind of understanding where the client is. And we build everything for as much longevity as possible. So we're not trying to build a quick fix where we can just hire one person and then that process is kind of just stuck to their skill set or what they do. So no, I'm glad to hear that feedback. It's a partnership. At the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs. We all have managed, are managing people, and people are quirky. So it's having that transparency with it because, and you're right, it comes back to the process mapping, giving you that ability to have a team that you can maximize and being transparent when an individual performance is lacking or something's going on in their life that's resulting, or they're missing their time carding, whatever the case may be. That partnership with our clients is so important, and it's about having that honest conversation to make sure that we get it fixed, fixed for you and fixed quickly.
Right. One of the things we did, Greg, internal to our company from the very beginning of the relationship was we treated our virtual assistant 100% as a totally immersed, evolved, equal team member. Yeah. When we have our leadership team meetings, we have the appropriate people in at the appropriate time, from your staff, my staff. It's my staff. You just happen to have plugged some people in. But you understand what I'm saying? When they do this, who's in and who's out stuff, that doesn't play well at all. Yeah. Where if you keep a person in isolation, you can't have the expectation that they're going to, I got a little message from Zoom there, may go away, but maybe not. It doesn't work. You got to bring them all the way on board. If you expect them to operate and perform and get the result as you would from every other team member, you need to integrate them into the fabric of your staff.
Yeah. That's a kudos to you guys. That's what we encourage. We say it right from the get-go. Our perfect client relationship is where this team member feels like they're sitting right there in the office beside you. We'll handle the hard stuff. We'll develop the processes. We'll handle the day-to-day management, do the time carding. But at the end of the day, we want them to be involved in it. And kind of coming full circle to where we started, that term VA used to kind of just mean the person you sent tasks to that you didn't want to do. What small to mid-sized businesses are seeing now is VAs are a resource. It's more of a team member. It's an employee, right? It's kind of coined VA space, but when done correctly, like you guys do, I mean, it can create, more efficient businesses. It can create bigger businesses, kind of whatever your goal is.
So, Greg, for people who would like to really engage in the conversation to find out what you could do for them, what's the best way to make contact initially, right? Well, in fact, I'll put links in. I'll get them right to you. We'll take care of it.
No, that's perfect. So feel free, anybody who wants to just have a conversation, even if you're not hiring a VA, if the process thing tickled you and you're like, I want to learn more about that. My email is Brookes@rocketstation.com. So my last name, Brooks @rocketstation.com. I've got a calendar that's got little 30-minute breakouts. Would love to hop on with anybody, talk VAs. If staffing is what you need, we can run you through our sales pitch or talk process development, anything that you need.
Sales pitch. It's not a sales pitch. It's an opportunity to grow and excel.
Right? Some people want to connect, talk process. Others, the hiring is what we need. So feel free, send me an email, brooks@rocketstation.com. Our calendar, if you're more of a, hey, I need to kind of connect in a couple of weeks. I'm busy right now. If you go to discovery.rocketstation.com, that's got myself as well as my team on there. Like I said, would love to talk to anybody who's either thought about VAs or has a staffing need. Let us be your resource.
I want to thank Greg Brookes from Rocket Station for being with us today.
Thank you, Wally. We appreciate it.
Commercial real estate today. Have a beautiful day, Greg.
You too.